Am I the asshole for not siding with my son? Note: my son is a frequent Reddit user, mostly on crypto Reddit, but still I am using a throwaway for privacy. I am also on mobile, so apologies for improper formatting. I, 40F, have a son, 18. My son was always a bit of a hothead and gets angry easily when he gets insulted or put down, but he usually bites his tongue and doesn't talk back. Few days ago we went to visit my older sister and my nephews. We haven't seen my sister since early 2020, the start of the pandemic, so we went in eager to see them after so long. My son was accepted to his choice of universities last year for the 2020-21 year, but he chose to opt out of going and stay home and work and build saving. He applied again this year and he has committed to Harvard and is set to attend for the 2021-2022 year. This is important information for later. We go to my sister's house and it's normal, he goes up and hangs with his cousins and I sit down with my sister helping with dinner. An hour after dinner, my sister calls my son down and starts to grill him about what he's doing and what's new in his. She asks how was his first year in college, as she assumed he had attended the 2020-21 year. He mentions how he didn't go this year due to the pandemic but is going next year. My sister blurts out how my nephew just finished his first year at the local college and has a 3.0 average and how he participated in an event of some sort for the college. She then proceeds to say that she always felt that my son was never very smart and said that he skipped the year so he could fix up his grades taking advantage of online learning. My son had already basically graduated before online school really took off. He proceeds to burst on her and said some very distasteful things. He said that he actually graduated with honors and took the year off to make money, more money than what your husband makes driving his half-ass cab. He also said that he didn't apply to any third-rate college like the type your son, my nephew, his cousin go to, and he's attending the best university in the world with a almost full ride. My sister and brother-in-law sat there shocked and I immediately got up and reprimanded him. My sister and brother-in-law, still in shock, snapped out of it and got angry at him and called him a narcissistic asshole and that they demand an apology from him. I apologized to my sister and brother-in-law and assured them I will speak to him and punish him accordingly. I headed out and he was in the car waiting for me. I scolded him in the car and he blew up on me for not taking his side, saying that I wasn't there for him while he was being degraded. That stung me and I told him I would fight the world for him, and he said I don't show it. My sister family is demanding the apology still and he refuses. He has refused contact and even told his cousin to get lost when he came to confront him yesterday. He is over it now, but whenever I bring up him apologizing he says if you want to take their side just tell me. Edit. My son has always been a higher achiever and my husband and I always taught him the importance of humility and manners, including respecting family and elders. I've been so used to him achieving great things on his own, I forgot that he is a kid and his mind is racing and some emotional support from me is needed all the time. But he still should have bit his tongue against his aunt and maybe told me in private about how he felt, because he never displayed this behavior before. It caught my fully blindsided. Edit 2. A really big thank you for your comments and suggestions. I've really been awakened by many of your comments and suggestions. I have felt terrible and honestly disgusted with myself because I pushed my son's feelings to the side for so long. Ever since he was young he had been such an overachiever and so independent, I just became numb to his emotions. Unlike his two younger brothers, he never showed or earned the need for me to do really anything for him and I really let his show of being independent blind me. I sat with him today and vehemently apologized for making him feel alone and that I should have stood up for him without a doubt. I told him I am the utmost proud of him and he is the reason I breathe every day and I was truly sorry I was unable to show it. I spoke with my mother and my sister and told them I would not force him to apologize and I would like my sister to apologize to him for insulting and judging him with no remorse. I am just disappointed in myself it took me so long as a mother to consider my boy's feelings. I always took his independency as him not needing me, but I needed to be there for him whether he showed it or not. I am sticking by his decision 100% and won't indulge my sister until she apologizes to him. From when I raised in my culture, we are really taught to never talk back and turn the other cheek and my upbringing desensitized the part of defending my children against my family. I will never allow that to happen again, thanks to you guys. A really big thank you to all of you for helping me realize my folly and to push me to become better. You are the asshole. They basically called your son stupid. You didn't do anything about it despite being willing to fight the world for him. and then when he actually decided to defend himself you yelled at him. You are the asshole. You say you would fight the world for him. Why didn't you defend him once during your sister's grilling? All you've done is shown him that you don't have his back. You are the asshole. Respecting family and elders. You get respect by earning it. By insulting and degrading your son, in front of you while you sat there in silence and let it happen, your sister absolutely did not earn his respect. You taught him humility? Good. But clearly he learned to stand up for himself from someone else since you clearly didn't. You threw your son under the bus despite your adult, grown sister shit-talking him. But I don't see you scolding her. You are the asshole. Your son is very smart and you should be proud of that. You let him be undermined and insulted after he come off a confusing year but still has succeed. After reading your edit, you really need to sit down with your son and apologize. Apologize for all the times you undermined him or didn't defend him. He may be a big achiever or what now, but he is still a child, he is still your son. He needs his mother, his parents to tell him that he is doing well, that you are proud of him. The poor kid probably feels all alone right now. Please apologize and tell him you are proud of him. And tell him congratulations on Harvard and best of luck on my behalf. YTA your son said some unnecessary and shitty stuff but your sister 100% started it by basically saying she thinks he's stupid and has no room to act like she's a blameless victim and demand an apology. I get that as his mother you have a responsibility to teach him manners and what he said was a bit out of line, but you also have a responsibility to defend your honors student son when someone essentially calls him stupid. You are the asshole. Your sister demeaned and insulted your son. He defended himself, and you think he needs to apologize? She started this fight. He ended it. Tell you son I'm proud of his accomplishments and that he stood up for himself against a bully. You are the asshole. Your son gets bullied, he fights back and you have the nerve to demand he apologize? You are the asshole. You are the asshole. Am I the asshole for letting my sister degrade my son and then getting annoyed when he stood up for himself? Fixed your title. Did he go overboard? Yes, but given you failed as a parent to call your sister being mean towards him frankly you have no leg to stand on. I also doubt he's as much of a hothead as you think if you and your family treat him like this. Am I the asshole for skipping rent? I moved to a new city and my friend conveniently had a spot in his 4-bed apartment for me although I'm not legally allowed to live here and I'm not legally subleasing, it's been allowed. I have not signed anything and I was never approved by the landlord to live here so I do not believe I have a legal obligation to pay for next month's rent. We're very different people and while we were friends initially, it just didn't work out considering how different we are. It was always known and established I would occupy until July however when I asked if I could extend or come back when another roommate moved out, they instead coordinated a lie, poorly, instead of being honest and saying they just didn't want to keep being roommates. I've overheard them colluding on it. I am BTA for leaving the apartment so suddenly but since I'm moving out I would not pay the upcoming month's rent. I have paid for all the time I have occupied the space. Edit. See above paragraph. I've poorly phrased my situation. I am willing to accept the title of asshole, I just want to be complete in my telling of the situation. Throughout my stay they've always been telling me things last minute like having planned parties in the apartment without telling me. I'm footing the bill for their high utility usage, leaving TVs on, hosting cooking competitions, lots of in and out guests for a party cranking up heating costs. They've been socially excluding me from things overtly saying, "Why don't you come out with me tonight?" looks at me, then back to their other roommate, "So you don't have to be at home," and inviting me as an afterthought or when I can bring a form of utility to the situation, like my car, and they didn't even tell me when they were leaving for a cross-country road trip until they were out the door. The one person who would be responsible for the rent for next month, because I'm moving out and I wouldn't be occupying the space, is really nice and it sucks that I'd be screwing him over, but I've already helped him enough taking the room for 4 months and he's been living here on the couch 3-4 a week still using our utilities while coming back from his other living situation which I believe to be free. He's an immigrant and is sending money back home, but he also has the money for this road trip somehow. I've found a new place that's a bit better but I would not be paying rent for the upcoming month while they're across the country. I need to look out for myself because I could be screwed for housing come July and where I'm going could go for a full-term lease with an actual parking space so I'd have better housing security. Am I the asshole for moving out early skipping the rent, because I'm not living here anymore, but matching their dishonesty and disrespect? Edit. I would pay for the time I spent here, but I'm not paying the rent for the time I'm not living here. So if I moved out this weekend, I will not pay next month's rent. I've edited the above post to state I would not pay future rent because I'm departing the apartment. To be clear, I've paid all my rent and bills for the time I'm here. You are the asshole. Regardless of the living situation, you are a grown adult who is living in a place where paying rent is required. So, pay your rent. You don't have to be friends with the people you live with. That doesn't change the business side of things in which rent is to be paid. Renting a room doesn't mean you've helped him out, you chose to live there. Doesn't give you the right to just skip out and not pay rent. I was ready to say you were wrong because I wrongly assumed you were going to not pay for the time you were there. But sounds like you're just leaving early from an illegal arrangement with people who don't like you. Not the asshole. You are the asshole. You're trying to justify not paying for housing. I see why they don't want you to stay. If you lived there and are due rent, then pay your damn rent. You are the asshole. Your petty life dramas aren't an excuse to not pay rent. You are the asshole. Roommates may suck, but the rent should be paid. You moved in and agreed to the rent. If you don't like the way they treat you, move, but you still pay rent until you move. You are the asshole. You have come up with all the reasons you think are justification for skipping out on rent. None of them stick. You live there, you pay rent. You want to move, you give 30 days notice first. That's how rent works. You are the asshole. You agreed to stay until July. You are leaving without notice and sticking them with the full rent for June. Even though you didn't have a written agreement, you're being a complete jerk. You know they won't find someone to replace you in a day. Usually, at least a full month's notice should be given, and if you don't, you should be responsible for paying any costs. It truly doesn't matter if your roommates are mean to you. That doesn't affect you owing rent. Of course YTA. And when June 2 stone comes and all your shit is locked outside, don't be surprised. You're not doing them a favor by staying in their house for free. You pay rent or you get kicked out. Period. Am I the asshole for pointing out to my sister that her relationship isn't healthy? My sister is in a relationship with a guy for the past 2 years and they're going to get married soon. They've known each other for the past 10 years and that's one of the foundations of their relationship. The guy is lazy, unmotivated and overspends money on shoes and food. He has a pathetic lifestyle and his health has deteriorated to the point where he just doesn't care and always finds excuses to indulge in food and other sensory pleasures. Moreover, my sister and the guy fight too much and argue at minor issues. As a younger brother, I want my sister to be with someone who has potential and actively tries to become a better person. My sister has also stopped caring about her health and has started finding excuses to neglect her health. Due to these circumstances, I've become repulsed by both them as a couple and I criticize them openly. I tell them to their faces that the relationship won't work out in the future and that she's just postponing and complicating the breakup with marriage. We were with her friends, who are married by the way, and my sister and the guy started arguing about something. It got visibly awkward with the two friends and me there. I've always been the type of guy who blurts out the truth quite bluntly, so I told them again that they both are lazy and unmotivated people and not at all good for each other in the long run. That declaration hurt my sister deeply as she was embarrassed to be called out in front of her friends, even though it's painfully obvious to everyone how dysfunctional they are. Later at night, she came to me and started blaming me for being a rude asshole and how I hurt her all the time. She tried to manipulate me by telling me how I've never had any successful relationships. I'm 19. Who has the experience of a successful relationship at this age? So what gives me the right to give them advice? My advice to her was that she needs to first work on herself and grow as an individual and then enter a relationship. She outright rejected my advice, so I just said point blank, I've given you a lot of advice as to how to improve your life, but you've never listened to what I have to say, so I don't want to be a part of your life anymore. Don't come to me in the future when shit goes bad. And then I told her to get out of my room. So from now onwards, I'll stay out of her life and let her ruin it. I rarely care deeply about people, and whenever I do, I always seem to fuck it up. I know there's almost a guarantee that I'm the asshole in this situation, but I do want to let everyone know that everything I said was in her best interest. I just don't know how to appeal to people's emotions. Edit. Some of the comments are criticizing me for lame stuff like my post history and language and our basic hatred. I've decided to ignore them. However, some of the comments have given phenomenal advice and I want to thank you all for spending your time considering my situation. I acknowledge that I was the asshole and I'll change myself. Thank you. You are the asshole. Her relationship is none of your business, and you were incredibly hurtful with your words. Being blunt is often just code for being rude and thoughtless, as it is in this case. You weren't caring about your sister or supporting her decisions, you just wanted her to do what you thought was best. You are the asshole. You shouldn't be giving anyone advice or getting involved in their relationships. It sounds like your issue with them isn't that their relationship has serious red flags like a huge age, power gap, controlling behavior, cheating, etc., but that they eat too much. Get over yourself. You are the asshole. Soft, you are the asshole. I think you're coming at it from a place of love for your sister, but embarrassing her in front of her friends isn't right. If you've told her what you thought in the past, and she's chosen to stay with the guy, then that's her relationship and her choice. As long as he's not abusing her, then there's no real need for you to continue telling her the relationship is wrong. She loves the guy, so she'll stay with him. You are the asshole. Be supportive. This antagonistic dick-waving is just going to make you the bad guy and push them closer together. You are the asshole. Maybe you are right. She's in an abusive relationship, but the way you talked to her, you just gave her reasons to keep in that relationship and you closed the door on her to confide in you. You are the asshole. MYOB, and stay on your lane. My advice to her was that she needs to first work on herself and grow as an individual and then enter a relationship. Yup, you are the asshole. Am I the asshole for leaving a family gathering and insisting Mill apologize over M&Ms? My wife, 34F, and I, 31F, have two wonderful children, 4M and 4F twins. They were conceived with my wife's eggs, a known sperm donor, and I birthed them. Both kids ended up being practical clones of my wife, so it's pretty clear to everyone who contributed the genetic material. My in-laws had everyone together at their house earlier this month. We're all vaccinated, and the weather was nice, so we had a barbecue. My kids were outside playing with their cousins, and Sil, Mill, and I were chatting in the kitchen. At one point my two run inside from playing and ask if they can have some M&Ms that they see on the counter. I tell them, no, we'll be eating in 15 minutes, you can have them after dinner. They run back out and Mill excuses herself to go outside. A little bit later Sil and I get the call that food is ready, so we go outside and I see my kids each have a little cup full of M&Ms that they are eating. I tell my kids that they knew they were not supposed to be eating those and took away the cups. Mill comes over and says that she gave them the M&Ms and they can have them. To which I replied, no they can't, it's dinner time, you were there when I told them no. Mill says again that, they can have some chocolate, it's fine, and tries to take the cups out of my hands. We go back and forth with no yes no for a minute, prompting wife to start walking over to us. Just in time to hear Mill say, in front of my kids, I'm saying it's okay, they aren't even your kids, they're wife's, just give them the chocolate. Wife had Mill repeat herself, and said something like, absolutely not, we're leaving. I put the M&Ms on the nearest table, grabbed both my kids, who were now softly crying, and started to pack our stuff. The whole event erupted into chaos. Phil screaming about the disrespect of us leaving, grandmother crying, brother-in-law and Sil arguing with Phil, Mill crying that her only daughter is abandoning her. It was a mess. After a couple hours at home the kids seemed okay, but Mill saying I'm not their mom really scared them. Wife spent about 4 hours on rotating phone calls with all of her family, from Phil screaming at her, Mill crying over how we took her grandkids away over M&Ms and made her out to be a bad grandma, brother-in-law trying to get in the drama, grandmother depressed saying she would die without seeing her great-grandkids again. Wife's message to all of them was that Mill needed to apologize to me and to our children for what she said. We made it clear that we would have no problem spending time with grandmother and Bil's family, but we would not bring the kids around Mill until she apologized. As you can guess, the apology has not happened, but the phone calls of guilt trips, yelling, and crying have not let up. I feel an apology is not even a big deal, and at this point Mill is making the choice not to see her grandkids. I want to hold firm, but I know how hard this all is on my wife, even if I really don't think it's my fault. Am I the asshole for insisting on an apology? Not the asshole. This was said specifically to inflict pain. To diminish your family. Even after an apology, not sure with that homophobic behavior I'd see her again. You birthed those kids. She knew exactly what it meant when she said it. Not the asshole. The argument wasn't over M&Ms, it was about Mill disrespecting you as a parent. First by undermining you and then by openly stating that she doesn't even consider you your children's parent, despite the fact that you grew them, birthed them, and are raising them. She implied that in her eyes the only family that counts is genetics, not the people who are there for you every day, support you, protect you, and love you unconditionally. Her attitude is disgusting, and I'm so sorry she confused and frightened your children like that. She was 100% Ta. Not the asshole. But please keep in mind that Mill revealed how she really feels. She genuinely believes her parental rights supersede yours, and if you get some superficial apology, that's still a pretty lonely and scary place for you to be. You should definitely expect more than an apology, you need real contrition. 10,000% not the asshole. I'm giving your wife a virtual high five. Way to go for her to stand for you against her family like that. NGL, but I sorta teared up a little when Mill said that in front of your kids. What an awful thing to say. How traumatic for them to hear that. There's just so much wrong with what happened. You and wife are doing the right thing by shelving hangouts with Mill until she wises up and apologizes. Oh my god, that just made me so angry to read. Edit. Put extra emphasis on them being your kids. Not the asshole. You have a great wife to have her defend you like that. She's a keeper, okay sign. Not the asshole. It was not about M&Ms. It's about Mill disrespecting your rules and going behind your back, and ultimately offending you by suggesting the kids aren't even yours. Come on. You gave birth to them and you are raising them. Mill should really rethink her behavior and apologize. NTA. You didn't leave over M and Ms. You left over your Mill stating, in front of your children, that they were not your children, and you did not have the right to parent them. That absolutely needs to be sorted out before you are around her again. Even if she doesn't use the words, I'm sorry, somehow. Your Mill needs to verbalize understanding that these are your children, and you have the right to parent them. It sounds like she needs to reinforce that to your children as well. She crossed a huge line. She at least needs to acknowledge that it was very wrong, and won't happen again. Again, for any relative who questions you, it's not about M and Ms, it's about Mill stating that my children were not really my children, and I did not count as a parent. Not the asshole. As I was reading how your children were conceived and born, I was just admiring the brilliance of you and your wife both being natural mothers this way. Your Mill was absolutely rude and disrespectful of you in front of your children and everyone else. If it wasn't M&Ms, it would have been something else she didn't agree with you on. She needs to apologize. It is the only way she will be able to show she knows what she said was wrong. Her refusal to do so sends the message that she believes she was right, and that's really not someone you want in your life.